Good afternoon, everybody. It's Terri Joosten speaking. Welcome to today's webinar on the ever-changing world of HR technology. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and then get into the presentation. If you do have any questions, you can certainly ask those there in the screen, and we'll try to address those in the session or follow up with you post-session. One of the most common questions we do get is, will you get a copy of this presentation? And the answer is yes. So again, it's Terri Joosten, Global Vice President with HR Strategies Consulting. Been in HR a little over 23 years, held a number of roles both as consultants, practitioners, and business owner. Most notably, a long tenure with HR.com, where I interviewed senior HR executives on the pain points they have, especially around the implementation and use of technology. That series was called Reality HR. Also was able to meet with every major vendor providing technology on the marketplace and understand those technologies that were available and the benefits that they were providing. It's given me a really good background, I think, to be able to present today and share with you some of the lessons I've learned over those 23 years and some of the things that we've been tracking and following that are happening in HR. So again, welcome today, and hopefully we'll get some great benefit out of this, or at least affirmation that what you've been thinking is accurate. So we're going to talk about what's happening with the HR market, what is talent management, what drives it, why projects fail. I think that's important to discuss. Again, more on the trends that we see forthcoming in the solution, talking about integrated versus best-of-breed solutions and the benefits of each, the advantages associated with purchasing technology are all topics that we're going to cover today. So when we start thinking specifically about what human capital management is, or now engagement platforms, or HRIS, or talent management, depending on how and what acronyms you're using within inside your organization or who your favorite HR gurus are. We're really looking at starting with your core HR and payroll solutions. And then from there, we're also covering benefits, which are often part of your core HR components. Workforce planning is kind of next on the topics that we cover, because typically you do workforce planning prior to you implementing and rolling out other types of solutions, or at least if you have workforce planning in your solutions, you do that first before you go out and start your recruiting process. So here, this is where we get into the actual talent management modules that we describe as year-over-year return on investment opportunities for organizations. We often think of core HR and payroll being automations, where once you invest once in that technology, your return on investment has been accomplished. You can't really drive year-over-year changing business results. Again, it's just freeing up time and enabling some self-service that you do year-over-year. Where most organizations, HR organizations, gain tremendous value is implementing the talent management modules, where they can make changes and tweak what they're doing and really drive year-over-year business results and return on investment. And those particular solutions encompass recruiting and onboarding, performance/feedback and goal management, succession planning and career development, your learning management solution, your compensation management, your labor relations, total rewards, and wellness solutions. Of course, wouldn't be what it is today without steep analytics. And that's why I put down the importance of why SAP bought Quadrant and Workday bought Adaptive, because reporting has always been important, but people analytics is really picking up at the C-suite. So if you notice in the bracket that I have here up on the top right-hand side, I'm really noting that from last year when I did this webinar to this year when I'm doing this presentation, the biggest differences that I'm seeing from 2018 into 2019 is that wellness is a really big play now for organizations. Everybody's looking to include that in what they're offering to their employees. They know that wellness isn't just about pretending we care in our employees' health. We know that it has huge impacts on the benefits that we offer and the cost of benefits to our organization. So it's a natural fit to bring into this suite. Also, there's been a big change around performance management as to whether we should be doing these reviews at all or not. And a lot of organizations are opting into what we call continuous performance management or regular feedback and pulse surveys of their employees instead of performance management. So these are the big shifts and changes that I would note that have happened over the last 12 months and that I see impacting the landscape in talent management solutions going forward. So before we, continue down the path and just talk about the changes and what the trends are, let's talk about the trends from traditional HR, what I would call paper-driven HR, to strategic HR. And that's the real shift here in all of these specific areas. So everything on the left has a corresponding change on the right. So for instance, in the past, traditional HR has really been viewed as reactive, where what we really need to be is much more proactive in what we're doing. We want to really be making impacts in the organization, not just adjusting and adapting to rear view things that have happened. In the past, we've been viewed as a cost center and very much administrative. And now more and more, HR is trying to push the needle and become much more strategic in its role inside the organization and where it sits inside the organization. It typically was confined specifically all the HR functions to just the HR staff. And what HR is able to successfully do now in the era and with the use of technology is through MSS and ESS, and from the big shift around that we want to say is happening in the marketplace is around HR automation to employee engagement. It enables everybody to have a responsibility over HR functions and your own careers. Again, HR was very transactional. It was also all about moving paper and making things happen. And now it's much more around enabling collaboration. Also very important for the millennial generation. They really want to work in much more collaborative environments. HR used to be important at certain times. Now HR is critical to organizations at all points in time, has become more and more strategic. In the past, we often promised just soft dollar benefits, where now we can deliver true hard dollar benefits. So in the past, we weren't able to show how we could impact business results. And certainly now we're able to show how we can help organizations do things like grow or merge or, be a change to a customer service focused organization, things like that we're tasked with in HR. We can now show real analytics and measurements about how we can impact the hard dollar benefits of the organization. In the past, we were all about, being brought in and increasing the amount of paperwork and not truly adding value. And certainly now, in those examples that I just gave, we want to add value. In the past, we were known for counting heads, and now we are important in making heads count. We want to make sure that we're attracting and retaining top talent, not just counting our workforce and how many employees we have. In the past, as I said, we were always looked at as, because payroll is a big part of all of our expenses in our organization, we were looked at as a drag on the bottom line. But now, based on how we can deliver business results, we're now perceived as a capability of adding to the top line of organizations. In the past, a lot of organizations outsourced HR as non-critical to their business. and more now we're seeing the return of HR as being mission critical inside the organization. So I'm hoping that you all have started to make the majority of those transformations. If not, hopefully you'll start to realize the value of those. And maybe part of the reason you're here today is understand the use of technology to drive those, and you can leverage those as reasons why you should be able to acquire HR technology. The other trends we're finding in HR I'm going to focus on now are a little bit different than just internal HR. It's really about HR not being a local focus, really having a global mindset. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that even though we may only operate in a certain city or state or country, we often, our products with the internet and what we're doing, we're selling to customers all over globally, or we're impacted globally in our organization by suppliers and things like this. So we need to remove our lens about just the people that we employ in the areas that we operate, and really start to look at our company and our business and our suppliers and have a much more global mindset to things that we're doing. Just like we're trying to do in HR, if you're viewing strategic HR as just automating, that's certainly a step in your HR transformation journey. But where you ideally want to go is a true transformation where you become, as we call, strategic to the organization, and that you can really shift your organization and your business. The other trends we're finding are the move from standalone applications to integrated suite, and also the move back from integrated suite to standalone applications, because that's happening right now at this point in time. And we're going to discuss the pluses and minuses of both of those. And then the other thing is the whole reporting capability. A lot of times you're just going to be in awe of the fact that you can report on what's happened and get details and information to share with your organization. But that's what I call rear view mirror reporting. It's what happened. Really what we want to enable ourselves to be is in a position with reporting to help us make decisions. The more predictive analytics is certainly the place that we want to be in HR. So that's a little bit about the changes that we've been seeing now for probably as long as I've been in HR, so over 23 years. Depending on where you are and how your organizations buy into HR, you will achieve some or all of those areas, but I can guarantee you there's not one person today on the phone that wouldn't say they couldn't improve in many of those areas. So let's talk a little bit about where the importance of talent management comes into play. So it's not just about HR automating things that we're doing manually that drive us crazy and cause errors. It's also the fact that now the C-level suites are really serious about having good talent management systems and processes in place. What they're finding is that themselves and board of directors and analysts and investment companies, and whether you're going to IPO or not, part of your valuation of how well your organization is suited to be a top player in your space has a lot to do with how great your talent is, how much of your talent are top performers, how well you're able to engage and get productivity out of your employees. And a McKinsey study concluded specifically that if you invest in these particular areas, that you can outperform other companies in similar spaces by 22%. So if you could, by investing in better HR processes right now, improve 22% your business value, is a pretty compelling story and a pretty compelling way to go into your executives to get alignment and buy-in to procure a talent management solution. So just talking about HR specifically, what are the critical business drivers that we see and we feel the need for to be investing in technology? Certainly we want to attract top performers. We know that salary alone is no longer the main driving force or the only reason that people are making moves and changing and going to organizations. And in fact, career advancement and career development are becoming equal to salary inside these organizations. So it's important for us to spend more money and enable our employees to be trained or developed inside of our organizations. These are the types of cultures that people are striving for and looking for. So these learning cultures, as well as still the green cultures and things like that, are what are attracting A performers to organizations now. So we can use these systems to help us build those cultures and to build our employment brands to be a self-fulfilling prophecy on our own organization and what our culture is. We obviously want to retain our top performers as well. It's often difficult without a solution in place to even know who our top performers are unless you're judging top performers specifically on something as simple as sales performance. But we also want to improve employee satisfaction and keep them engaged and motivated inside our organization. Engagement isn't just about individual engagement as well. It's really about engaging people individually, having them work more cohesively as teams, departments, regions, divisions, entities inside of our organizations. We've talked and we will talk ad nauseum today probably around analytics, but we need to be able to get data and information to be able to prove that HR is having a positive impact, not only on the people, but on the business in general inside the organization. We want to change the way that we're doing things and improve those processes and improve business practices so that we're more agile and that we can free up time to work on strategic initiatives and perform functions that we just don't have the time and capabilities to do now because we're so manually tasked in transactional items inside of HR. And along with these analytics and the freeing up that time becomes the whole ability for us to be much more strategic. So giving us the data and the time that we need to focus on things that are really going to impact and influence our business. We need to be able to show whenever we want to buy anything or invest in anything in HR or make changes inside the organization with processes that there is a true total cost of ownership reduction or return on investment. It's no longer are we given, if we ever were given, money for the sake of HR having a budget. We now more than ever need to prove that every dollar that's allocated to us in HR that we're making good use of out there on the marketplace. So before we go into talking more specifically about the trends and the differences between integrated and best of breed, I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about why projects fail. I know this is kind of a negative spin, which isn't typically how us in HR like to feel, but I think it's really important because if we're going to tackle and take on or want to convince our organizations to invest in any type of technology, we need to know what a successful project's going to look like and take, because we have to have this buy-in and investment in advance or we won't be successful. So one of the reasons projects fail is we just don't do proper due diligence. We go out and listen to just our peers or somebody calls us and say they have the best technology, and we don't really do due diligence and flush out both what our peers are saying, the analysts are saying, what the industry reports are saying. We don't do an actual analysis of what we need to have to be successful in a product and solution. We just assume that if it fits somebody else, it's going to fit us. And those are all mistakes that happen if we don't do proper due diligence out on the marketplace. The other thing that makes projects fail is we automate old processes. So we don't sit back and say, let's do things differently, let's achieve best practices. Instead, this acronym is old processes plus new technology equals expensive old processes. So we don't want that to happen. If we are going to invest in technology, we want to embrace the best practices that can be delivered through the technology. We want to make sure we're partnering and working with an organization that will help us and push the needle in us getting that type of value out of that relationship. It's difficult to know what the technology can do. You're going to have to really rely on the partner and the technology that you choose to help you do this. And this is a big failure point, both in not choosing the right technology and the right partners to deliver these. The other problem we have is we buy solutions that are just too difficult to use, or we implement them with too high a level of difficulty with not enough change management involved in it. So if you choose a solution that may be giving you everything you want and more, but it's too difficult for people to use, they just will not use it. The other problem we have is we often take a band-aid approach. So we go out and we say, oh, we need a recruiting solution, or oh, we need to automate our performance management, and we take a band-aid approach to it, and we have a bunch of different departments that are going out and buying a bunch of different solutions that don't talk to each other. So we have a bunch of systems with a lot of incomplete processes. We don't want to see that happen. I alluded already to change management, and if we're not building in change management or partnering with an organization that can help us with change management, we won't get the user adoption and the value out of the solution that we're purchasing. The other reason we fail is we don't train effectively. We don't put enough training plans in place. And if we're purchasing too many solutions, then of course the time it takes to train on multiple solutions inhibits the adoption as well. So the other thing here is number 7, it goes back to this return on investment in data and reporting, is if we can't prove that the system is providing value to the organization, it's less and less likely we're going to get future investment from the C-suite into HR business functions and systems and technology. Which leads us right into number 8. If we don't get executive buy-in, if they're not vested in the project, if they don't see the value of getting this software, if we're not able to prove to them in advance it's going to derive business results as well as transformational results, then we're very unlikely to have them help us enforce the adoption of the system or be adopters themselves out on the marketplace. And speaking of adoption, it's the what's in it for me is that WIFM. So what's in it for me from a manager's perspective? So we got the executives to buy into it. We're going to get them to use the system, but how do we get the managers inside the organization to do it? Certainly we have the keeners that want to be the best managers ever and would welcome the opportunity to have clear visibility into their employees and what motivates them and get them feedback to them and coaching to them on a much more regular and frequent basis. But for other managers who are a little bit more reluctant to use technology or just feel that their time is better spent outside of the systems, we have to clearly identify what's in it for them to use these solutions to get that adoption. And lastly, probably the biggest problem that I see happening, it goes back to that Band-Aid report, is we're too short-sighted in our decisions. We have immediate pain points. We document them successfully, but we don't have a long-term vision. So I'm going to go through an example of that just to help you. It's always good to have examples. So let's talk about buying an applicant tracking system. It's often one of the first bought products in the talent management suite because it's a big pain point for a lot of different types of industries and organizations. So recruiting isn't managing employees well. We don't have clear visibility. We can't access our database. We can't mine candidates. We don't even know if our internal candidates are promotable. So we go out and we look at all these problems that we have, you know, no career site, too many resumes, no easy way for people to apply, to share this data and information. So we go and we do all the research. We do an RFI and RFP. You know, we think about present and future needs, and we go out and we buy the best possible applicant tracking system. So most of you will be thinking, okay, yeah, I've done all my due diligence. That's really perfect. Well, there's some shortcomings of that type of thought process. is, again, we siloed it just to recruiting. So we can get what we call silver analytics that you wouldn't have had before, like time to hire and cost per hire. But what you're not getting are what we call our golden analytics, which are things like your quality of hire, your new hire retention rates, your hiring manager satisfaction rates. These are all things that come when we bring data from other types of talent management solutions, like performance management solution, for example, and mirror the data together to come up with these golden analytics. So we're missing critical data by not thinking about, does this talent acquisition recruiting solution that we're looking at, does it have the capabilities to work with our performance management solution or not? I call this partial intelligence. So we're speeding down the road, we're solving this problem, we think we've done a great job, and all of a sudden, we find out we've dead-ended ourselves, or we're costing ourselves a ton of money in integrations between this system and other systems in order to get those reports, or manual processing of that data to come up with those golden analytics. So we can't stress enough how important it is to have a holistic view of HR, not a siloed view, as well as a siloed view inside of our organization. So I hope that was helpful. So now we're going to jump in and talk about what's been happening in the marketplace. So if you're like me and if you've been around in the space in the 90s, a lot of changes occurred, and a lot of things are what I call cyclical, that they start one way and they come around. That was easy for me to say. So in the late 90s, all the big ERP vendors were preaching you have to buy integrated. So you had Oracle, SAP, PeopleSoft, JDE, and Bond, and now, of course, Oracle owns PeopleSoft, JDE, and so they're already through a large amount of amalgamations even inside the ERP space. Also in the 90s, we were getting major players piping best-of-breed stories. I remember when I was at HR.com, I met with the CEO of RecruitSoft, which turned into Taleo and who is now Oracle, said to me, hey, Terri, I'm going to dominate this marketplace because all we're going to do is focus on applicant tracking and do nothing else. So they may have been the best vendor for that narrow-minded use case that I just said. But in actual fact, just based on what I've shown you today, that they were RecruitSoft, they're now Taleo, and I've alluded to the fact that they're now part of Oracle, that didn't stay true. And in fact, Oracle itself has bought a great number of products and solutions that combine and make up who Oracle is today. And Taleo did the same thing. Taleo actually bought Verve and so on and so forth, and became an integrated talent suite on their own before they got bought up by Oracle. So there have been a lot of major acquisitions. In the HR space, there's every single day you can read articles on HR.com or through HR Marketer or another Star Conspiracy, a number of resources that are out there that will tell you excuse me, what's happening in the marketplace and who's merging with who, or at least who's partnering with who. So some of the biggest ones that happened out on the marketplace was that SAP bought SuccessFactors, IBM bought Connexa, and Oracle bought Taleo. There's other big players out there that haven't been bought yet, and that will probably happen. So that's got to be a concern for us also when we're looking at purchasing talent management and applicant tracking products and so on, is where will these final destinations of these vendors be? Will they get bought? Will their products stay in existence, or will they be merged into another technology suite? And will you be forced to move your technology to whoever bought them out? So these are also other risks we have to consider when making technology investments. So let's talk about the market from 2000 on. So the dot-com bust came in 2000, and we saw everything become in the cloud. So, jobs were posted in the cloud, resumes were hosted in the cloud, performance reviews were hosted in the cloud. Everything was in the cloud. And everybody, like RecruitSoft, was one-off products, best of breed, saying they were going to be able to do what they wanted to do. And then I talked about the fact that Taleo and SuccessFactors and Connexa went out and they bought a bunch of these best of products and came up with their Connexa, SuccessFactors, and Taleo brands. Then, of course, what we saw happen just after 2010, 2011, and 12 was the actual buy out of Connexa, SuccessFactors, and Taleo by SAP, Oracle, and IBM. So they got eaten up again by even bigger giants out on the marketplace. Then what we found after the market had settled a little bit and everybody was pushed back into using these bigger organizations for integrated talent management, we saw companies like Workday and Cornerstone come out on the marketplace and say the benefit of Workday and Cornerstone was the fact that they were natively built products and solutions that they didn't buy mergers and acquisitions. But what we found, as happened lately, is even Workday and Cornerstone have been buying companies, as we alluded to earlier. Workday bought Adaptive just before SAP bought Quadrant to really improve their overall analytics. And as all this was happening and all this consolidation was happening, what we were finding on the marketplace was a move again to a bunch of best-of-breed solutions coming out, because we started to see a shift in the marketplace. So in Web 1.0 was really, let's put everything in the cloud. Web 2.0, from an HR perspective, was let's automate HR. And what we're finding with Web 3.0 is really creating an integrated engagement platform. So this is where we're leading into. This is where we're seeing the market shift right now. So all of these great one-off best-of-breed products, and there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of them, came out on the marketplace to be more agile, more user-friendly, more driven by the employee than the big beasts that are listed up here. And what we're starting to see already is a number of these starting to get eaten up and bought up in the marketplace. And what I'm predicting to see very shortly is these big giants or other companies who have an acquisition strategy being the ones that lead this 2020 with integrating, again, all these really niche best-of-breed solutions and technologies into their product, or developing, enhancing that themselves inside their platforms. And certainly, I've seen that with the SuccessFactors platform, really truly morphing it to be an engagement platform, and we know that all the other vendors are trying to do that as well. So what is integrated talent management? Integrated is not a term that's always used in HR, for lack of a better word. So it means, you know, that software systems or applications that are made to speak to each other. They pass predefined data and information back and forth together. And without this type of integration, organizations spend a tremendous amount of money and time and effort in maintaining integrations between different types of systems. So if you were, you know, to go out and buy a performance system and a recruiting system and a learning system, then somebody has to be held responsible to either enter employee data at each and every one of those, or to integrate those back with your core system of record. So integrations are a problem that has been alleviated a little bit with what we call APIs that are delivered out there to streamline and make data transfer real time. But still, a majority of integrations are done through flat file transfers on a regular interval, usually nightly, between systems to keep them current from one system to another. So let's talk about why integration may be the way to go versus these best-of-breed solutions. So Josh Bersin at one time wrote this article that basically says that, yes, you could get maybe some unique feature and functionality from an independent vendor, a best-of-breed vendor, but if you pick a really good large partner to partner with, eventually that feature and functionality will be brought into the system. So there was an emphasis on not running off and buying a one-off best-of-breed solution and dealing with all the integrations and user interfaces, but you just stay the course. Pick a partner that you know is innovative and will provide regular releases to you, and just wait it out. A newer similar statement came out from the HR Trend Institute, saying that at the beginning they were skeptical about whether the big players were the way to go. But again, they're now saying that either they're able to plug in these features and enhancements, or that they are, again, building these features and enhancements themselves. So we're getting a number of people that are now supporting the fact that you may get a short-term gain for one of these best-of-breed solutions, but if you really pick the right partner, you're only talking literally months away probably from getting that technology introduced to you through one of the bigger vendors on the marketplace. So while on-premise ERPs are integrated, and certainly you can buy, use, and leverage an ERP system that you may have in place. They all deliver core HR and talent capabilities in the system. Some of the reasons you don't want to do that are most of those companies like SAP and Oracle have all bought cloud strategy providers, and that's their go-forward way with HR. So my recommendation is, if you're looking for new talent management solution now, not to go back and implement it in the ERP, but to actually go with your ERP's chosen vendor, or look at other cloud solutions and integrate back with your core ERP solution. The reason for this is they've likely, as I said, already sunsetted when they're going to stop development in their ERP HCM solutions. The functionality isn't being pushed out quarterly or semi-annually like it is in other solutions on the marketplace. Also, the only benefit we see for staying on ERP and on-premise is financial investment. Just from a licensing perspective, is you probably already own the licensing for your HCM product in these big ERPs, so you don't have to pay the annual year-over-year cloud licensing. The problem is you're not getting the pace of innovation, and eventually it's going to be no longer supported. Also, the cost of implementing, for instance, learning on a core ERP system versus learning in the cloud is often 3 to 4 times more expensive than a cloud implementation. So what you may be saving on licensing short term, you're probably going to pay to implement a less user-friendly, less feature-rich product long term. So integrate talent management vendors through acquisition. So we talked about, SuccessFactors, NConnect, Inteleo, all buying different products to make out their product suite. So there are some integration issues with organizations that do that short term. They fix those over time. For instance, where I'm most comfortable in speaking is the SAP SuccessFactors suite. So they've rebuilt their product suite on their HANA Cloud platform. So the user interface is the same. The modules are all function and operate the same. So over time, those problems are removed. But it is something, if you're looking to buy a product, you want to make sure that they've had time and any of the modules that are really important to you are well integrated throughout the suite. The other thing with going with best of breed is, of course, as we talked about, you can potentially get increased functionality. So they are ahead of the market. They are focusing just on one product and service. They can pivot and make changes a little bit more quickly. But again, the investment to bring these best of breed solutions in and to plug data into them from other systems, the problems with doing that far outweigh the benefits you get short term often in these best of breed solutions. But in some cases it does make sense. I'm not saying never buy a best of breed solution, but just investigate how easy it is and what their past history and record is of being able to plug back into other HR systems and solutions. So we have best of breed. Again, this is what we've been talking about all along. You know, they're perceived as the leaders with those unique features and functionality. But again, what we're finding is that these major players in the HR space are putting a lot of money and investment in their technologies, and that they will catch up. So the capabilities over time are limited, and our recommendation is to really stick with an integrated system versus a best of breed, wherever you're not getting any thing from a best of breed solution that you know will never come or isn't on a roadmap for the vendor that you're working with from an integrated talent management perspective. So here again is a survey that was done by Cedar Creststone that shows if you're using an integration philosophy of an integrated talent management suite, that your operating income, your propensity to grow is 27% versus 17% with best of breed. So proving, again, whatever functionality you might get out of best of breed is given up by the many benefits associated with integrated. I added a slide to my presentation because a lot of people want to know what integrated talent management looks like. And I would say that there's 3 tiers of vendors. So you have your tier 1 here, your tier 2 here, and your tier 3 vendors that are here from a feature functionality perspective. Excuse me. This might help you understand and identify potential players. Excuse me while I just grabbed a drink there. So HR and the business impact. So let's talk about the impact of implementing technology and choosing vendors. So this is the HR impact. So again, as a HR professional responsible for technology in our organization, let's say there's 16 or 17 different modules that encompass what I showed as HR technology. Do we want to manage 17 vendors, 17 contracts, 17 potential integrations? No, one vendor to manage is much simpler. Again, do we want to sign in and out of systems? Single sign-on is an option, but again, although it's a small incremental cost, it's something that you would have to build into all these systems to seamlessly have you log in from one system to another. The other thing is from a user interface. If we have 17 different products that look and feel and act differently, they're all, the user face is different, and the adoption to them will be impacted because we're not comfortable in working all the systems because we're not in them enough. We'll also require less training if we have one partner and one solution, because that training can be just for all the modules at one time for the end user versus training them on 17 disparate systems. And every time there's an upgrade in any of those systems, doing retraining as well. And these things all lead to higher user adoption. The more and more I go in and log into a solution, the more value I see out of it, the more I'm going to go use it. So if I'm spreading that user ability amongst multiple products, I'm never going to get a really high user adoption rate that I would, again, from one overall solution. In the example I gave you around the applicant tracking system, it's around improved analytics. So again, it's about getting those golden or more depth or cross-module type of analytics in the system that can be available. We already spoke around the integrations and the cost and effort in conjunction with that. The other thing is we can reduce costs. So not only integration costs, training costs, but typically the more modules you buy with any vendor, the better your discounts are. So again, it's economy of scale from actually procuring the software as well. So saying that, what I want to make you think about further is, you saw the slide where we came into the dead end, is to remind you when we're looking at these projects and taking these projects on, my advice to you is to always begin with the end in mind. we want to have a really long-term vision inside of our organization. We don't want to buy what's best for now. We want to buy what's going to serve us well long into the future. And we want to collaborate with everybody inside of our business units. You know, we want to make sure that recruitment and organizational development and training are all in line, that we're not going out and one-off buying solutions without consolidating and collaborating amongst ourselves. We don't want to create these product silos that are going to cause us to experience those things that we talked about not wanting to occur. So with that being said, what we want to do is always begin with the end in mind, because if you don't, this type of thing could actually happen. Scary enough, apparently this actually did happen. But if you have people on different sides with different goals and philosophies, you'll never get the systems to line up and communicate effectively in the end. So, you know, your road to success is following a lot, hopefully, of the advice that I've given you, changing how you look at HR and the processes that you have, getting prepared for these projects to ensure success, really having that long-term vision and focus here inside of making these decisions around these solutions so that you are overly successful. So that was what I wanted to share and offer you today around the presentation. I'm hoping that you did find that of value. I'm sure that there's many of you out there that hopefully have learned something new today and are able to take some of this data and information back with you to make you more successful in your internal organization. So thanks for sharing the time with me today, and I look forward to receiving any questions and feedback that you have. I'd be happy to answer those on